Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equities Story. I'm with Mr. Wolf, and just let's say this, just a general share advice and not personal advice. Wolfie, how you doing?
Very, very nicely, thanks. Looking at US market last night, there was a big rally towards the end of the close, especially Nasdaq. So, is this a dead cat bounce, Dave, or are we seeing a little bit of a different story emerging here, where the sold off tech stocks in the US, not the top echelon, but the ones that have been smashed by 50, 60, 70%, are they ripe to bounce back?
Yeah, it's a good question, Wolf. I mean, you're looking at the Nasdaq, and it's still not back above trend.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like you said, so far this week, it's starting to look a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And is it going to be some sort of V-shaped recovery back up on the markets? Um, I think it'd be interesting to look at just see how markets can move if we just sort of go back in time for maybe a bigger sell-off and just get an understanding that you can start breaking trend, and which we started breaking, maybe not as violently as that, more like that, and you can have your little rallies before you come down. I mean, that's back in 2000, so you're not expecting, you're certainly, I don't think, expecting to just go down. You sort of expect the rallies because I think there's still a lot of cash on the sidelines or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the issue I think is really what we've got that can pull the market down further, and I think those issues are still there with higher inflation, interest rates going up higher than what we expect, and this obviously issue with Ukraine. So there's still issues out there, but at the end of the day, Wolf, we're just going to play the charts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we do get in some trades this week, we're just going to have very tight stops on them. There is I don't know if you've ever sort of followed this uh, Elliott wave theory.
Mm-hmm.
Elliott wave theory often really supports the fact that you tend to get a first wave down, then you get a second wave rally up, and then you get the final capitulation, which is the third wave, right? Which we haven't had yet. So we just got to be very, very cautious at the moment. One thing I was sort of, I don't know, there's a really good, Tom Lee's very, very good in the States. You want to follow people that get it right and people are good. And he's sort of feeling that we could have a strong rally back from these lows.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to what he had to say because you want to listen to people who've got a decent record in the past, and he certainly has. Um, but I think no, the situation I think still for me is caution, and I certainly wouldn't still be putting out any trades midweek at the moment, Wolf.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, Dave. And it's actually good to listen to different opinions, right? From all perspectives, from the doomsdayers to the big bouncers we're going to have, and just to see where people are coming from. So look, with what we see, I think potentially there might be some bargain hunting amongst those little, big tech stocks that have been smashed. So maybe that's what we're seeing at the moment. But like, I think I tend to agree with you here. It's caution all around. I mean, I certainly would not be getting excited too yet, especially when you look at ASX. It's really not has done that much yet.
Yeah, I mean, really, the SX, I thought it was going to have a much, much better bounce, and
Yeah.
really still pretty flat for the week. So, yeah, I mean, not particularly good. I think even more importantly, Wolfie, I was really interested to see how some of those stories that we talked about yesterday had some really good announcements. Just to see a little bit, can they go on with it a little bit? And you had STG, which I absolutely had a fantastic move up yesterday, but again, just failing to get going above trend line now, and
Mm.
got that little sell off. And you had another story yesterday. I mean, DTC again, really. I mean, okay, it's had a little bit bounce, but for such an excellent story that looks so good, such good value, again, you just don't see the momentum in the story, and the market doesn't seem to want to have a bar at it. And
Mm.
at the end of the day, the only way we can, there could be great stories, but the only way we're going to make money getting into these great stories is when they're going up and
Mm.
they're interested in them. At the moment, it doesn't see it. I thought Art's going on with it, which is a good sign, definitely a good
Mm.
sign, and
Mm.
definitely for me, most probably looks more promising as a bit of a pivot. But again, it's still way below trend, and maybe you just want to see where it is by the end of the week. So I don't know. There's a lot of it, Wolf.
It's
A lot.
it's almost like it's not no conviction there, right? It's some things are going up, but people get nervous towards the end of the day and sell out. So
Yeah.
that's what's happening right now, I think.
I mean, look at M70, another one that had a great announcement yesterday. Bounced up and sold off, and it says doesn't look like
Yeah.
it can go on with it. I mean, what we want these stronger moves so we can see the real momentum coming into the market.
Yep.
So we can get excited. And again, I mean, RPM, that was another good announcement yesterday. Now they're back down below trend. I mean, STV, that was another one. I mean, great announcement, great story. The best they can do is hold trend. So,
Dave, everyone's sitting watching Equity Story and saying if Dave and Wolfie is not happy yet, we're all going to sit on the sidelines. You can
well,
see that's exactly what's happening.
I don't know, but I mean, at the end of the day, when you're investing, you've got to invest in the markets.
Yeah.
Certainly short term, Wolf, and
Mm.
this is what I'm talking about technically. You've got to have the momentum in the market, and
Yeah.
I think, and the belief's not there yet,
No.
and certainly, I think there's a lot of people in the market just expecting, more pain, and maybe a lot of people just waiting until Ukraine sorted out before they get stop putting money in.
That could be the pivotal moment. What's going to happen there? Can they solve it diplomatically, or are we going to have a bit of a stoush?
And China's interesting. There's a really interesting article by I think Soros saying that the president of China, could be, maybe he could have a problem if he doesn't fix things up, right? So I don't know. It's like maybe Soros is pretty well. He's got some pretty good sources. He must know maybe China is suffering a lot more than what we realize.
Potentially, but it's very difficult to remove governments who are in charge of power for many, 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 many years. It's just like Putin. You're never going to get rid of him. That's the problem. There is no democracy in those countries, so you can't remove them.
No, but I think they can get removed by the board, can't they? They can swap. They keep the
Yeah, but
same.
it's
They keep the
almost,
same party, but they just swap the
yeah, but it's
leader.
almost like it's impossible to actually touch those in charge of the party and the board because they have got so much power, unfortunately. So while maybe there's some rumblings in there, they're all scared because if they speak up, he'll probably just purge them all.
Oh, right. Okay. He's a purger, is he?
Yeah, well, I'm
I'm,
sure there will be some purging if someone says any dissent towards the leaders. Like, can you imagine some Russian dude would speak out against Putin? He'd probably disappear, never be found again.
right. Okay. So you think his job's safe, but
Yeah,
it was a strange thing for Soros to say then.
yeah. Well, I think he's just stirring the pot, really. Um, because he can. He's not in China. He can say things whatever he wants. I wish that could be the case, right? But I think reality says no.
All right. It's interesting. It's interesting. Him thinking that he could be
Yeah, well,
vulnerable.
look, we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's talk stocks, shall we? Because there's
Right.
lots well, not lots, but a few. And then we've got a nice top 10 list coming up.
Yeah, Wolf. So let's go through some of these companies that put out announcements today
Okay.
and have a look at them. The first one is ABB.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's had a tremendous run, and Wolf, we got it on around here, and it's been a fantastic move for us. Broke trend. I think as soon as it broke through that $5, things started looking a little bit weak. It's come down. It's holding trend now. Um, what was your feeling from the announcement today?
It was okay. I mean, high single digit growth, right? Is that exciting enough for anyone? Yeah, I suppose. If you are looking for, I don't know, a business that's fairly solid, growing in a telco space, then yeah, this makes a little bit of sense. But I'm not. I'd probably be looking somewhere else just for the moment.
Yeah, because it's still unprofitable as well. Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, all right, let's have a look at ELO Wolf,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a story we followed, and again, we read it's up 10% today, right? Sorry, let me go. You can see it's starting to pivot a little bit. Um, excellent announcement. I mean, again, but the share price action still looks it's still struggling.
Yeah, it's when sometimes you look at stories, you got to scratch your head why the performance of a story like this one, for example, here, right? Okay, maybe you can't tick the box that used to be. It used to be fairly acquisitive, right? So and raise a lot of cash, was unprofitable. So that was the issues that whether the company came across, but it's now come down. So you've got a company at 429, I think, trading on about four times revenues. I think 90 million they've guided today for revenues. So for me, it looks attractive valuation point of view. So that's a big box ticked. Then they're talking about we're looking at about 30% growth. That's a big box tick. They're looking at about 30% organic growth. Big box ticked again. So you think to yourself, this should be now recovering strongly, right? Yet it's not quite doing anything at the moment. It's actually still looking fairly weak. So it's on my watch list. I'm thinking there's got to be a trade somewhere along the way, as long as they can keep coming up with those announcements. So it's sort of a fairly interesting story, Dave, that probably you should potentially own some of this once it gets back to some sort of 460s, 470 levels, maybe.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just been range traded for years,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
exactly. And this is why it's strange. Is it because they are diluting and diluting? Maybe that's what the case is here. They're just diluting their shareholders. But if you didn't do the charts, if you're just looking at purely at fundamentals and financials, you think to yourself, this is attractive. I'd be looking at buying this.
And it is right near those March COVID lows, right, where it's sort of bouncing off. So it's so.
I look. First of all, you'd leave it till the end of the week to see how it goes. And again, you want to see a bit more momentum coming to the story, isn't it? I mean, that's the key for me. You want to see investors loving the story again, and it's just not. They're not doing it at the moment.
Weird market, I tell you, Wolf.
It is, but this one looks good.
So, yeah, this one does look good, and obviously looking like it could test all-time highs possibly next week. So, good move up, Wolf. But okay, 8% increase in net profit. Really that good?
Yeah, isn't it amazing? Isn't it how the expectations for stories are very different from story to story, right? So you've got a story that on 8% and an upgrade, by the way, right? So they had an upgrade, so maybe that's a reason for that. It gets applauded and rewarded with a great looking chart, mind you. So for me, it's like thinking yourself, okay, well, obviously a pretty good story, but I've got fairly low expectations. I mean, if I'm coming up with 8 to 10% growth and the market's perhaps, then I'm happy with this story. I'd probably be trading this, Dave. There's not much that can go wrong, surely.
Well, see what
okay.
it looks. Again, I think what we've got to do is see how it goes on with it towards the end of the week, and if you're going to get this, make a decision on Friday. I think if it's tradable, we're going to have it at Einstein's.
Yeah, and the other thing is with it, you put it on a PE basis, 26 times. Not as if it's cheap on a 9-10% growth. That's why I'm thinking, why does this chart look so great?
Yeah, well, it might not look so great by the Friday. So, again, watch list. CIP Wolf pays a nice little dividend of 4.5%. It's come down, hit trend, bouncing off. That chart doesn't look too bad, right? And maybe if you're looking for a dividend play, it's possibly a dividend play that could hold up reasonably well. They had an upgrade, did they as well?
Yeah, absolutely. A small little upgrade. Actually, first of all, strong results plus a little upgrade. So really, this looks very good from a valuation point of view. I think it's trading on, what is it? If this is true,
P of 3.
3, exactly. Does that make any sense? Let's go. What are we missing here? Why is it 3 times? I have to have a look at this one because it makes no sense. It's hardly story going to be trading on 3 times. Then maybe they paid a special dividend or something, and that just looks maybe looks really good. I don't know. I'll have to have a look. 4.5% dividend yield. That looks decent. So anyway, look, I think generally speaking, the performance financials, they're saying we're going well. And that's why we've upgraded slightly our dividends and so on. So for me, I'm looking good. I'm probably looking, this is one of my picks. If I need another dividend story or something that's pivoting and looking decent in this space, that's a CAP ticks the box.
Just have a look at BLD Boral Wolf. They've coming up with a big dividend.
Yeah. Capital return / dividends. They recently sold that business or part of the business in America. So they've got a lot of cash to deliver, right? What are they going to do with it? Of course, they, either you acquire something else or you give it back to the shareholders. So the decision being made to give it back to the shareholders makes sense. Huge dividend. I think it's over $2, right? So that's going to really chop this down by that amount. But good story, really, when you think about it. Look at the previous run that it had to about June, July.
Well, you'd have done well loading up on this in the COVID crash at $2.
Exactly.
End up holding a free stock. So,
and I still think it's a pretty good company. So I don't mind it at all.
Well, for trending this one at the moment, SWM. It doesn't look too bad either, does it?
No, I think it's holding on beautifully. It's probably one of the very few in a portfolio that's been sitting intact in my portfolio, saying, "Oh, it's still holding pretty nice trend lines." It had a slight little wobble last week, but it held on still very well, and it's looking pretty good. And you've got the Olympics coming up, the Winter Olympics in the next couple of weeks, so you never know. I'm happy to hold.
All right, Wolf. We spoke yesterday in depth about looking at sort of maybe a top 100, the top 100 stocks in the ASX, and trying to pick maybe 10 stocks that you'd definitely be looking to accumulate in a downturn.
Yeah, look, absolutely looking at least, first trying to where would I buy it, first of all, and second of all, I'm have to have a long-term view. So the criteria were for these ones, obviously quality company, long history, profitable, obviously most years, of course, growth to boot, and a good outlook. So I've chosen still pretty good stories, right, and very diverse. And for some of them actually have come back nicely. Some of them are probably still maybe waiting. So you're not going to be buying all of them at once, but they are very, very good stories. So let's go through them.
So again, obviously, if these are buys, they'll be on Einstein's on the weekend. But what we're saying to people, if you see these on Einstein's and we've got them as a buy, then certainly maybe you should be looking at them. Yeah. So Goodman Group, which is looking pretty good, Wolf, it's come back and hit the trend line and looks like it could go on with it. Macquarie at the moment's hit trend and maybe it can go on with it. But again, we've got
amazing how both of them they hit the week, the blue line, and they're pivoting. Please do that. It's amazing. Those trend lines, Dave, are looking good.
Yeah, well, they all say, "Oh, we're near Dave's trend line. Time to decide what we're going to do with our lives." So again, Macquarie, again, these aren't buys because actually they need to do a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
but if you're in them and you're holding them, you're relieved they're holding trends. That's for sure.
That's exactly right.
And ALU, unfortunately, I'm not. That can't really break up yet. It needs to do a lot more for me to get interested in that one, Wolf. Yep. But ARB, that's been great price action so far this week. So if you're going to hold that sort of a bit of an oversell from that one broker that came out with a negative comment, wasn't it?
Yeah, the thing is, the next day there was another broker saying, "Nah, still $50-something." The market didn't react. So they believed one guy, not the other guy.
But anyway, listen, Wolf, it's bounced back quite nicely, and certainly by the end of the week, you might have a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. The thing with the ARB, they actually updated their performance yesterday, and it was still stellar. So you're buying still a very good company on the growth path.
And again, like BKW just needs to do a little bit more for me to get interested. PMW, that looks very good, Wolf. If it ends there by the end of the week, I think that could be a nice buy for the following week. lot to like about it. It looks very, very, very good.
I like it too.
I thought you'd frozen there for a second.
You froze.
What?
You froze, not me.
No, I thought you froze.
No, you froze.
You're not. You're not playing pass the parcel again, Wolf, are you? Bloody hell.
Anyway,
Okay,
next
but
one.
and that PMV, yeah, well, that PMV does. It looks very, very good. I'm just having a look at the trading on what 21 times.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dividend? What dividend do you have on PMV, Wolf?
I'll tell you. Hang on. And the other thing is we've got to remember, right? While we're trying to obviously find cheap stories, we've already given you some cheap stories. We're finding now stories that are market darlings, maybe, right? Let's call them market darlings that have been maybe oversold. They're still probably going to be trading at the elevated levels or levels that maybe you're not going to see that cheap. But at the end of the day, they're always going to probably attract a premium, right? To the PE, the average PE. So I'm less worried about the PEs, more worried about the actual great story and giving you an opportunity to buy some cheaper. All right, so PMV, it's trading on 16 times PE and a dividend yield of 4.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But again, I mean, that price action looks excellent. Seek, unfortunately, just needs to do a little bit more, Wolf. Maybe that's support where it is, but we will see. SHL, likewise, I just want to see it do a little bit more. Telstra's looking better, Wolf. So it's sort of come down. Again, it's done what Macquarie have done. You know, it's hit our little blue line.
Yep.
It's come back and said, "Oh, I've hit Dave's blue line. Something it can't be too bad." It's bounced back. But again, you know, if you can do a bit more, you'd be buying it.
Yep.
And again, same with basically Worley Parsons, Wolf, come back down to trend. Just needs to do a little bit more.
Yeah, look, the reason why I got Worley, because it's probably one of the odd one out in there, right? I'm thinking as they've been wallowing in that price range for the last 2 or 3 years, actually, right? But they are positioning themselves for the green evolution. So, you know, I've still got a long-term view on this, that it's going to come good. And eventually they're going to start heading up again. So it's just one of those stories that I got a soft spot for, because I think they are going to be doing fairly well in the next probably 2 or 3 years.
So these are just like really long-term stories that you'd be looking to sort of look to get into in this week market.
Agree.
On that note, Wolf, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
We're also going to do a US version of this towards the end of the week. But please join us for tonight's Ask the Analyst.
Yeah, and just be careful, guys. Just want to recap. I mean, great to see a bounce. We don't know what this bounce means just yet. We're just going to have to be patient. What we don't want to be is suckered into just getting into a dead cat bounce, and it could easily be that. There's still a lot of issues around, so we've still got to trade very, very carefully at the moment.
Great.
On that note, Wolfie, hasta luego.
Adios.
Adios. Bye bye.
Yeah.